profile. And today we'll be having Lynda taking us over interviewing. How this will go is we're going to have Q&A at the end, and you can post your questions as the presentation goes along in the chat here or on our YouTube live stream for those of you watching us from there. Looking forward to a great presentation, Lynda, and you can take it away.
All right, thank you, Ryan. I hope y'all can hear me. I'm excited about this opportunity, so thank you so much to the developer-ish community for inviting me. I look forward to discussing what I have prepared for you and to all your questions. I am no expert in this topic, but I'll tell you how I ended up doing this and what I've learned out of it. So let me just tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Lynda. I work within the people team in Andela. And basically, I design processes or programs that help people work more efficiently. So like, let's say a process needs to be implemented or something needs to be reviewed, and there are multiple stakeholders who need to come in and either give input or make decisions. I bring these processes to life either through documentation or through data, usually through data analysis, so that they can be able to implement decisions and make efficient decisions or fair decisions. Usually these programs involve taking care of people or knowing what people need, and involve and improving the HR, the people experience within the company. So it's a lot of data work, but also a lot of trying to understand how do people experience the kind of programs that the company is implementing for us to make it a better experience for employees. Yeah, that's basically what I do. So how did I come across into this whole interviewing space? I've done many interviews in my short career, and I've failed at many, and I've been successful at some. And I don't know if y'all have heard about this book by Sarah Cooper, 100 Tricks to Appear Smart in Meetings. Basically, Sarah sat down and started to think about to notice trends or behaviors of people who seem to appear smart in meetings. And she shares a couple of tricks. You can look at her website, thecooperreview.com, and she shares there how what she's written in her book. And it's the same with me for interviewing. So I just started helping out a couple of friends and coaching them through interviews, and even thinking back through to what I did for specific interviews, how prepared I was, what kind of content I brought to a specific interview as compared to others. And I think early on in my career, I also worked with a placement organization. Basically, we were placing candidates with organizations, and I could see what people were doing to excel versus not doing. So I realized, hey, there are tricks here. This is why some people succeed, and this is why some other people don't succeed. And I think there are ways you can position yourself as a strong candidate. So hopefully at the end of this, you'll be able to identify those tips and tricks. So the challenge is that candidates are interviewing, right? We apply for jobs, we submit applications, and we get called for interviews. But then we don't realize, in as much as we're interviewing, those people are interviewing us, we are also interviewing this company. A couple of years ago, I went for an interview somewhere in Frankfurt. I used to live in Berlin, and I went to Frankfurt for an interview with this company. Now, this company didn't reimburse me my flight expenses. They needed me in a remote part of Frankfurt. The interview process was super annoying. It seemed to be a very old type company, very hierarchical, very structured, very backward, so to speak. And I really desperately needed a job. Like, I was like, I have to work for this company. But now looking back, I'm grateful that I didn't choose to work with that company. Yes, I didn't get into that. I wasn't even considered as a successful candidate, but I'm glad that even looking back knowingly, I wouldn't have taken it as a job, because for me, I was like, this is not a company I want to work with. I'm not sure I will have this room for growth. I'm not sure they're innovative enough for the type of work that I want to do. I'm not sure I want to be coming here in the middle of nowhere to work. So this is a problem. Candidates don't realize they have as much power during the interview as the interviewer does. The other problem that I've noticed is that interviewing is a skill. Now, I've met people who apply randomly, even when they have a good job. They interview randomly, even when they know that they're not looking, because they want to keep their skills sharpened. They want to continue to stay alert and to stay aware. What are the interviewing skills? What are the questions that are being asked today? What is relevant in my area of expertise as far as interviewing is concerned? So that's another thing that I'm seeing, like as far as when I coach people and when I talk to them about their interviews, they're like, oh, I'm not good at this because you don't practice. And then there is a lot more than just content that goes into preparation. And today I don't want to talk about just content. I just want to talk about some things I've noticed. They may not be your usual maintain eye contact. I'll just give you other things other than the usual, like dress up, look professional stuff that you already know about. So my hope is that you will walk out of the session having identified potential areas of weakness in your interviewing skills, because I'm sure every one of us has like some strong skills, but there are maybe areas that you could definitely adjust so that you can be successful. And also identify new opportunities that you could harness so that you can bring out your best self during an interview. I'm just going to stop there and see if there's any questions, comments. Okay, great. So let's start. So everything starts with your application. Obviously, nobody will find you just randomly unless you're getting headhunted, which is everyone's dream. That's my career dream. I don't ever want to make another application. But here we are. Everything starts with your application. Do you know what the company does? Do you know what industry it is in? Do you know what is happening in that industry? Why do you want to work in that industry? You might be a software engineer, but you're passionate about the healthcare industry. Do you know what the trends are in the healthcare industry and why you want to work in the healthcare industry and what kind of solutions you want to bring there using your software skills? And when you apply for this position, why are you interviewing for this position? What do you know about the position? So, and what are you looking for? Why are you looking to change jobs in the first place? Maybe you're just interviewing because you want to see what's out there. So, the what you're looking for might not be as strong as when you desperately need a job. You see, but you need to be clear about why you're interviewing when you're interviewing so that you can sound convincing. But like, despite the fact that everything starts with your application, I think for me on this slide, the main point was do not be afraid to use your contacts on LinkedIn to find out more about either the job or the company or the industry. Your contacts are a resource for you. When you get into interviewing, and then let's say I'm applying to Andela and I want to know, okay, I'm interviewing for, let's say, a project analyst position. I will go into LinkedIn and see, okay, who works at Andela? Do I know somebody? If I don't know anybody at Andela, then I will reach out to somebody who knows somebody else. Okay, do you know somebody who works at Andela? Can I talk to them about XYZ, about the company? And when you are researching about the company and the industry, get granular about the position. What is this position really about? What do they do in that team? Who's the person who's going to interview me? How many interview steps are there? Because obviously, if this is a smaller company and they only do 2 interviews, then you need to sell yourself as fast as possible. But if it's a larger company and there's like 7 interviews involved, then you need to arrange your interview in such a way that you have something else to offer in subsequent interview stages. And of course, you can't compare interview stage 1 to interview stage 2 to interview stage 3. So you need to know who's the person interviewing me, why are they interviewing me, what contribution are they what are they contributing to the team? Why is it relevant that they interview me? All right. So always think of interviewing as sales. Technical people, I mean, my background is in financial economics, data, statistics, the whole financial modeling stuff. That's my background. And I always thought, you know what, my work will speak for me. I don't need to speak for myself, but really, we have to speak for ourselves. Our work may be good, your software engineering skills may be excellent, but your mouth must speak for you. So it's about sales, it's about selling yourself, and everything starts from the beginning. So make a great impression from the moment you book that interview. Recently, I heard about a challenge where some people were called for a physical interview, and I think there were taps running outside. There was just garbage everywhere. And a lot of the people who walked into that interview didn't sort any of those problems along the path of going to the interview room. So there's this one guy, the only one guy who closed those running taps or collected the garbage along the way is the one who got the interview. Maybe that secretary or like that receptionist that you didn't say hi to is a person who has the ear of the interviewer. Those are small things, but they count. So just watch out for the impression you make from the word go. So a lot of people fail the question, tell me about yourself. They go into either their life story, how they were raised, where they came from, why they do what they do. Many people cannot communicate fluidly or compellingly what they do. So you want to tap into what value you're bringing, what changes you're bringing to either your organization or what changes you're bringing to the industry, rather than I am a software engineer. So forget the titles, give value instead of a title, because you telling me you're a software engineer doesn't communicate to me anything about what you do. So have an elevator pitch, really work on your elevator pitch. And the moment you have an elevator pitch, it's not just for interviews, it's for those moments when you're at a cocktail party and somebody asks you, actually, what do you do? Then you have an elevator pitch. This is what I do. This is the solution that I bring to either the people that I work with or the industry that I work in. And this is how I make a difference. And this is how I intend to make a difference. So it's not just for when you're doing interviews, it's also for when you're meeting new people. And if you're not good at small talk, find a way to practice it. Don't discount it. It's about rapport building. It's about getting to know who you're talking to. So the elevator pitch is about also getting to know your interviewer. Who is this person who's interviewing you? Read about them. What is their age? If they're a much older person, you might want to use a more like better English, so to speak, a more professional or like structured language. If they're a younger person, then you might want to, if they're interested in robots, for example, you just say, yeah, I found out something about you. I saw that you're interested in robots, blah, blah, blah. I know this about this, or I don't know anything about that, but I would like to hear what your take is on XYZ. So this is what I'm talking about. Everything starts from the beginning. I've already talked about like do as many interviews as possible. It's like a muscle. You want to build it. You want to make sure that if somebody tells you, tell me about yourself, you have an elevator pitch, so to speak, already there, curated. So practice makes perfect. Now, there are specific interview questions for a particular position. So for example, if you're going in as a individual contributor, obviously you're not going to be asked questions about either leadership or people management. But if you're going in as a team lead, then you want to practice questions or to find situations, scenarios that you can exhibit, that you can be a team lead. So look at questions that make sense for the position that you are interviewing for. And then the third point is really demonstrate, demonstrate, demonstrate. I mean, I can't emphasize this enough, especially when we're interviewing remotely. Now, in the past, people used to go in with their CVs in a file or a folder, and they would just say, okay, here's what I've been able to do. This is charts and graphs of what I've been able to accomplish. We are so privileged that we're now interviewing remotely. We can package portfolios, we can package content to show that this is what we've been able to build. We can send links of things we've been able to build in the past to demonstrate what we're able to achieve. So don't be afraid to say, hey, can I share my screen? I want to show you what I'm talking about. Usually interviewers, the more visual you can get, the better, because you are demonstrating. And also the more technical you sound, obviously don't go overboard and sound cryptic, but like if you can use expert language in the field of expertise, then you're communicating that you know what you're talking about. Yeah, so let's talk about the position. I'm also like, I suffer from this. I don't always read the JD fully when I'm applying to a job. But this is your most powerful weapon. It gives you all the jargon you need. It gives you all the words you need to be able to understand what you're doing and or what you're applying for, what you're interviewing for. So please do not underestimate how powerful it is. It's curated by people within the organization who understand exactly what they need. So use it to understand what is required of you. Read it thoroughly. Even as you're making the application and even as you're interviewing, use it to fetch out how you're able to demonstrate that you can be able to fulfill the required tasks and responsibilities. Check out projects that this company or this team has been working on. Usually, depending on the size of the company, they'll publish or they'll put blog posts out about, oh, this is what we're doing, or this is the kind of products that we're building, this is the kind of market that we're serving. How do I as Lynda, how can I fit into these projects? This is demonstrating that you already understand the position or the team and the purpose that they're playing within that company, but also understanding exactly what they're working on and why this person is required within that team. So that's also another weapon for you. Like, it's impressive when you come in and you tell me, oh yeah, this is, you're working on bringing healthcare to this market in Turkana, and this is why you need somebody who understands the language there, and this is how I can make that possible, XYZ possible for you. So you want to use your past experiences to demonstrate the value you can bring and why you're the perfect fit for the job. The STAR technique is a favorite. I use it for my applications. I use it for my interviewing. So when you have the questions, for example, why are you the best person for this job? Or tell me a time when you did XYZ, or how would you solve for XYZ? You want to use either past professional experiences, and always remember that if you don't have a past professional experience to demonstrate that, you can always use a social experience. Like if you're the person who organizes all the trips for your friends and you make sure they have a blanket when it's cold and you know the schedule and you, I don't know, make sure they have water, you know, these things that people don't talk about or don't think about. You want to use the situation. What was the situation? What did you do? Like what was required of you? And then what did you do? And then the results. That's the STAR technique. So that's about the position. Now this slide represents everything from your body language to your energy to maintaining a positive demeanor when you're interviewing and maintaining eye contact. But I really specifically want to talk about your tonal voice. I'm not sure if anybody has ever interviewed and they just cannot stand the voice of the person because they sound bored, they sound like they just cannot convince you of anything, they they're just like, they're distracted, they're not curious enough. The tone of our voices is very important because it says a lot about how curious and engaged we are about that position. So are you passionate? Do you sound enthusiastic? Either about the company or the industry. Maybe your greater vision is to serve a particular industry or a particular market. And this company is a conduit for you. And you're like, look, my passion is beyond you. I really don't care if it's through GIZ or the UN that I serve this purpose. What matters is I'm able to make a difference in XYZ. So sound passionate about what it is that you're really passionate about. People usually jump in to answer a question before they've stopped to either think or stopped to ask to clarify. Do I understand you correctly when you're asking XYZ? Now, these things are very important. If you jump in too soon and the interviewer hasn't even finished asking the question, or you just start answering your own things, then you look a little bit dumb. You're not thinking, and depending on the position, obviously all positions want a critical thinker, somebody who's stopping to think, okay, how do I package this answer correctly? And there's nothing wrong with saying, can you give me 2 minutes? I need to think about how to structure my response. Usually interviewers understand that we just don't structure up things quickly sometimes, and we need to maybe create associations depending on the complexity of the question asked. And despite the fact that some interviewers might push you to the wall, you don't want to get impatient. Now, I've done an interview a couple of years ago with some senior leadership at Bloomberg, and it was for a business development position. And these people basically deal with clients, and clients will get impatient. They will come late. They won't care what you have to say. In fact, half the time they don't even know what you're trying to sell to them or why they need to meet with you. These guys pushed me to the wall. First of all, one showed up late. He had his shirt untucked. He kept asking me very difficult questions. And sometimes I would say, I really don't know don't have an answer. I don't know. And there's nothing wrong with saying you don't know if you don't know, because that's also sometimes there's testing for humility or curiosity. Maybe you want to learn. So never get impatient. Sometimes the position just requires that the interviewer pushes you a little bit so that they can see your tenacity, your elasticity, and your ability to deal with people. So the other thing that I want you to think about is your questions. Questions that you ask the interviewer either about the position or or the company or the industry, or things that you've read about online, those scandals that you've read about. You know, when you go on Glassdoor and you see management is XYZ, or team leadership is terrible, don't work for this team, or salary is bad. Your questions are a demonstration of your preparation. They indicate how well you know or how deep you dug to know about this company. So you want to have a set of questions prepared. Remember what I said in the beginning about the fact that you're interviewing this company as much as they are interviewing you. So do you have any non-negotiables? For many people today, I'm sure working from home is a non-negotiable. Even if you want to see me in the office, maybe 2-3 times a week in the office. So is this a company that you must see me? Do I really feel like I can do this? Yes, no. So your questions will determine some of those non-negotiables. And it's also a chance for you to determine whether this is a team, a system, a place you want to work. For example, if you feel that it's a toxic work environment already, you can be able to assess from your questions, then you probably don't want to work there. Are the goals unattainable? Do you feel like they want you to grow sales, for example, from X to Y in a shorter period of time? Perhaps you feel like that is unattainable for you and you feel like it's pushing you a little bit too hard. So your questions will help you determine this. And it's a demonstration of curiosity, communication, professionalism, and confidence. This one is a hard one. Money. It's a difficult and necessary conversation. So it's also difficult to estimate depending on the size of the company and depending on the visibility of the company. The bigger the company, if it's stock listed, then you probably have more access to more information. So if you don't know anything about what the company pays for that particular position, then what do you as of a similar nature pay for that position? And if you can't access, then use your networks. Ask questions. How much do these companies sort of pay? Ask questions about, like, if you're working from a remote environment or like from outside a city, do they give stipends for XYZ? Ask questions about, scratch that. Negotiation skills basically is what will help you here. And if you don't know how to negotiate, take a course in negotiation. And don't be afraid to bring up this topic. Many people are afraid to bring up the topic of money because it's uncomfortable. Unfortunately, or fortunately, it's how we live. We make money, we live to work to make money to live. So we live to work or work to live. I don't know which one you subscribe to. But money is a necessary conversation. If the interviewer does not bring it up, let's say if there's 3 interview stages, by the second interview stage, at the end of the second interview stage, if the interview hasn't brought it up, you want to bring it up. You can acknowledge that it's a difficult conversation to bring up, but don't not bring it up. All right, so just a couple of takeaways for everyone to remember. Understand the job interview levels. How many are there? Who is interviewing you for each? And why are they the ones interviewing you? Who is determining whether or not you get the job? So be careful to assess that so that you can be able to put your best foot forward for each interview stage. Also, you don't want to be over-prepared for the first level. Maybe it's just an assessment of, do you understand what the company is? Do you understand what the team is? Do you understand the JD? Usually the first interview is about that. The second interview gets a bit more technical. What skills are you bringing to the table? How do you see you can contribute to this? If you're a team leader, then do you have people skills? And then exhibit confidence. And let's go back to that point. The tone of your voice is how you exhibit confidence. For example, look and act the part until you get the part. And then lastly, close out an interview properly. So assuming this has been an interview, I've asked the questions, the interviewer has answered the questions. The next thing for me to do is to still emphasize that I'm the person for the job. This is why you should hire me. I'm grateful for this opportunity. I look forward to the next interview stage. Convince them that you're the person for the interview, for the job, excuse me. Interesting. This slide has stopped working.
Arguably the most crucial part of the job search, an interview can make or break an opportunity. So to help you really prepare, we're going to dissect and analyze an entire interview from start to finish. I'll be sprinkling in a mix of tips about body language, etiquette, and how to answer questions. Like, when exactly does the interview start? How do you deal with nerves? And how soon can you follow up? For years, athletes have used science and data analysis to improve. Now, we are doing the same for job seekers everywhere. This is Job Science. Meet Anya, a recent grad majoring in business administration. She's interviewing for an entry-level project management position. Note her posture. Head up, shoulders pulled back, no slouching, and no laid backness. The interview begins the minute you walk into the building. Anya treats everyone in the office with respect while keeping eye contact. From security personnel to receptionists, anyone you run into on your way in could be asked to give feedback on you. It's normal to be nervous. When nerves kick in, the natural human response is to take short breaths and breathe faster. Stay calm by taking a deep breath before entering. Hold it, count to 3, and then slowly breathe out. Pause. First, ace those introductions. Greet everyone in a way that is authentic to you, like, hey, nice to meet you, and then say their name. That one always works. You know, you're more likely to remember their name if you say it out loud when you first meet. A lot of the time, small talk comes up before any questions. It's good to have a few current events or topics in mind. You can't possibly predict what they're going to ask, but you can practice answering the common ones, like, why do you want to work here? What makes you unique? Let's see what our interviewer asks.
So I want to hear more. Tell me a little about your experience and what you'd bring to this role.
Pause. When this is asked, they're looking to learn what makes you stand out. Be honest with your answers. That means having to pause and think for a second. That is all right. Think about your past experiences and how the role lines up with your future goals. It never hurts to be honest.
Great question. Ever since I was young, I've always been the organized one in my family. Whether it was helping my parents schedule vacations or color coordinating my closet, naturally that lifestyle got me here, project management. I've been a people person for as long as I can remember. Plain and simple, I love team building and making sure everyone has a part. Just the other month.
Ooh, just really quick, don't speak negatively about previous places you've worked. Instead, talk about what you've learned.
I helped lead a team of 5 to deliver a 3-week sales project a few days ahead of schedule. I'd love to bring these things here.
Perfect. A response like this not only answers the question, but also shows off her personality. But remember, there's no one right way to interview and answer questions. Be yourself and let your personality shine. Be aware of your movements. Practice polite, confident body language. Subtly miming your interviewer's posture can actually create a sense of connection. Of all places, unnecessary movements are hard to ignore in an interview. Whether it's tapping your fingers or bouncing your leg, be aware and stay present.
Hey, it's been great chatting so far. I guess my last question is, do you have any questions for me?
Ooh, this is a hot one. Make sure to have a short list of questions for your employer in your back pocket. Ask the questions you would if you got the job. If tomorrow was your first day, what would you want to know from the manager? Even if you don't have any burning questions, asking a few shows that you did your homework and that you really care. Some include, what do you like best about working here? What are some mistakes people have made in this position? What is a goal you're currently working toward? How will my performance be evaluated?
Well, I did read that you're expanding your software team next quarter. I'm curious how you plan to carry that out.
The interview isn't actually over. Always follow up within 24 hours with a thank you email to the hiring manager. This can be a quick note simply thanking them for their time, or a longer one that elaborates on some of the things you talked about. It's key to leaving a lasting impression. This was the breakdown of an interview. Till next time. Arguably the most crucial part of the job search.
All right. That was just a summary of what I was trying to communicate earlier, to emphasize what I know from my experience coaching people, but also to reiterate the message. So here are some books you can look into: How to Win Friends and Influence People, on just very basic people skills that anybody should have if they want to win friends and influence people. The book I mentioned in the very beginning, 100 Tricks to Appear Smart in Meetings. This is stuff you can use in meetings, but also I found a couple of tips and tricks that you can use in interviews. And obviously, when you want to learn how to negotiate better, then Never Split the Difference by Christopher Ross is a great book. So what I can do for you. I've coached people, and some of those people have really well-paying positions. So my work is to practice with you. From the job description, I can kind of tell what kind of questions you'll be asked depending on the level of the interview. So we can go through that together. I can see how you answer questions, and and be able to give feedback so that you can ace your interview. So practice, practice, practice is how I can help you. And you can book a free consultation with me if you're interested or if you have an upcoming interview. Yeah, that's it from me. I'm glad to take any questions you may have. I see that there are still none on the chat.
Awesome. Thank you, Lynda. Since we don't have any questions on the chat, if there's anyone who has any questions, feel free to just unmute your mic and ask them directly to Lynda.
Yes, I have a question. Money, of course, because money, yeah. The question is, so when like I did an interview a couple of days back, and they asked what kind of compensation are you expecting for this role? So they initiated the talk about money. That was just the first interview. So my question is it okay to just reverse the question to them as well? Like you'd say, like I gave the response on it being, before I answer, now this is just me saying, before I answer, would you be as open to revealing your budget for the role as I give you my budget? Is that okay to approach it that way? Because it was a they gave me a rejection, but I don't know if that was the deciding factor. I don't know. Would that be an appropriate way to ask it, like reversing the question to them as well? I don't know.
Right. Thanks, Howie. I would say try as much as possible to answer the question. If you're not clear on a specific figure, give a range. I'm willing to work for between this amount and this amount per month or per annum, however you want to sum it up. And then, yes, there is absolutely nothing wrong with reversing the question to the interviewer. You want to ask them, okay, this is how much I'm willing to take. I want to know what you're offering so that we can see where to learn, how to negotiate from there. Typically, people do not get rejected specifically for the amount unless, especially if they're strong candidates, interviewers will usually say, okay, this person was really good, it's just that the amount we don't agree on the amount, and then they'll come and renegotiate if they think you're a strong candidate. I hope that answers.
Yes, it answers. Thanks.
Okay, great. Ruth asked a question about what would a consultation session look like. So it depends on what you would like, Ruth. I don't usually help with actual applications. My strength is in interviewing. So it depends what you want to do. Are you interviewing for a specific job or a specific position that you want me to guide you through? Then the consultation session will be what is used to determine that. Or is it that you just want to grow like specific interviewing skills and you want me to assess how you answer specific questions? Like it just depends on what you would like to know about your interviewing skills, Ruth. Ryan, do you still want to moderate? Because I'm not able to see the questions on the other side.
Sure thing. So we don't have any questions on the. Actually, do have a few questions in the YouTube live chat. Just come in. So one from John Karaoke. From my experience with the money question, most companies that ask how much you're expecting is usually because they have a range in mind too, either by law or by company policy. And then I think that was more of a statement. We have one question from Austin Roy. What kind of interaction do you typically expect when a recruiter sets up an initial chat?
Oh, I was muted. When the initial chat is set out, it's just like, hi, what do you understand this job to be about? What do you understand the company to be doing? Why do you want to change jobs? If it's a job in another country, are you looking to move, or how do you think you're going to serve this position? Yeah, so such things. Do you have a work permit if you're in a different country? It's very like surface level questions to determine, okay, can this person, is this really the right person for the job in terms of like just quick fit. Usually the second interview level is more technical stuff, like if it's a if it's a software engineering role, or if it's a data role, then like can you work with the necessary systems? Do you have the technical expertise? Do you know how to handle clients or stakeholders? Do you know how to write reports? How have you demonstrated dealing with people or dealing with difficult situations? So you want to differentiate these two. I hope that answers the question.
It was from the live chat, so feel free to, Austin, to respond on the live chat whether that answered your question. There's a question here on the call chat from PM. Not sure if you already answered this one around the answering revealing your current pay. How to handle the question of revealing your current pay? Yeah.
That's a tricky one, and it's a good question. I think, personally, this is what I would do if I was being asked about my current pay. I would say this is what I would like to earn. Let's not talk about my current pay, because it makes sense that if I move from one position to another, like find a way to weave around the question and talk about pay, but in terms of what you would like to earn rather than what you're currently earning. I suspect that organizations usually ask about current pay if they're cross-referencing and they already want to hire you. So usually they'll go to your HR, like if you're working at Andela, they'll go to your HR and ask, how much is this person paying, just to see that you're telling the truth. But I haven't had a situation where somebody has asked me about my current pay. But if you can find if you can find a way to weave around this question and talk about what you'd like to earn rather than what you're earning right now, and why you think you deserve to earn that much, then it's a better conversation to have, in my opinion.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So when you're perhaps an interviewer asks you what you envision working with them would look like, what exactly do they want to hear from you, and how would you answer it? Because to me, I feel, well, I got that question and I felt, do I talk about culture? They must have a good culture. Or like, what do they want to assess you to know if you're also a good fit for them? Or do you like tell them what you like to see or experience in that company? I'm not sure.
So that's a great question. This is where your job description comes in handy, because your job description helps you understand exactly, or roughly, let me say roughly, what is expected of you. So when they ask you, how do you envision working with us would look like, I would describe a typical workday, either a typical workday or a typical project. This is how, this is what I suspect you usually work on. This is how I see myself delivering on this project. If you suspect that there's a team, and there is nothing wrong with stopping to ask, hey, just so that I can structure my response. Well, is there a team, and how many people are in the team? You're right in suspecting that you should talk about culture. Is it a remote work environment? Where are these people based? So if you envision that you'll have weekly meetings once a week, then that is part of culture. It's team culture. It's how they operate. How often will you be interface with your manager? That's also something you might want to bring up. Is it the type of job where you're on the field talking with clients? Then you want to bring that up. So really, like bank on the job description. What are they saying about your tasks and deliverables, and try to paint a picture of what you would imagine. And there is also nothing wrong with painting, like reversing the question back to the interviewer and say, hey, this is what I suspect. Am I in the right track? And this is what I understand from the job description. Could you correct me or add into anything that I've mentioned? There's nothing wrong with that. They'll usually be happy to explain a bit more.
Okay, thank you.
Great. So there's another question on the chat from Greenwood. At what point should you reach out to the interviewer after taking part in the interview, especially after they had said they would get back at a certain date?
I'm thinking. So it depends. You could reach out immediately and still emphasize the fact that you are still the right person for the job and that you look forward to hearing from them and thank them for the opportunity. But if you're not comfortable doing that, then just wait until that certain date. If the certain date gets here and they still didn't get back to you, then write to them. Usually you want to hold the interviewer or the organization for responsible for whatever it is that they promise. And thank God we're in the age of information where you can go to Glassdoor and review a company based on your interview experience. Please don't be afraid to do that. That's why that information is reliable, because you and me go back in there and give feedback. Like, I didn't like the recruitment experience, and usually there's I got the job, I didn't get the job. Or yes, the interview experience was great, but I didn't get the job. Or the interview experience was shit and I didn't get the job. So we live in the world in the age of information. Make use of those portals.
Awesome. Another question just came in. How do you know the age of the person interviewing you so that you can flow well with them? From Julius.
Thanks, Julius. I don't know. Research their LinkedIn, see how many years of experience they have working. You'll usually tell by that, if you can be able to assess, okay, by the time they finished university, they probably age 20, they worked for 7 years, they're probably 27. Max, maybe they had one gap year, maybe they're 29. Yeah, so again, the age of information, just go onto their LinkedIn, look at what they do, where they've worked. You might even find you worked for the same organization and you didn't know, or they worked for an organization that you have really deep interest in. Maybe the conversation could go a totally different way. Don't be afraid to explore the sources of information that you have.
A question of my own around that. How permissible is it to reach out to someone who already works at the place that you're interviewing for, kind of cold reach out on LinkedIn or whatever to gather more information?
Yeah, cold contacts work. Obviously, they've worked for sales people for a long time, but they typically take a long time. So you want to use people who you know, who would connect you to people who work there. Use your WhatsApp groups. These are powerhouses. They have people sitting in there who know people who can connect you. Recently, a friend of mine was interviewing for 2 jobs, and I can't remember for which organizations, but he just posted on a WhatsApp group and said, hey, I'm interviewing for these jobs. This is what this one offers. This is what this other one offers. This is why I think I should join this one as opposed to this one. But he couldn't quite decide. And then I told him, these are great organizations. Actually, I know 1 or 2 people who work for this one organization. here's a contact, and I just reach out to that other person who I didn't even talk to for maybe a year or two, and they were willing to have a conversation with this person. So put it out there. You know, there's a saying that goes something like, if you tell people that you're looking for a job, if you tell people that you're interviewing, if you tell people they're also looking for a job for you, so that you're not the only one who has eyes out there. The same applies to contacts. If you tell people that I'm interviewing with this company, then they'll be like, oh, actually, I know someone there. They could connect you.
Great. Anyone are there any more questions from anyone else? All right. Thanks, everyone. We'll be sending out a link for the feedback form for this session, and you can leave any feedback you have for Lynda there, and feedback for the workshop Wednesdays in general. Lynda, if anyone would like to contact you, is the email that you have on the slides what they should use?
Yes, I'll just type it out in the chat. It's wamuthianilinda@gmail.com. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn. Yeah, I'm happy to have a chat. Thank you so much for having me over. This was an awesome opportunity. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Lynda. It was very informative. And have a good day, everyone. Bye.
All right, bye.